From the MeidasTouch Network. We are live every single day, including the weekends. We got different shows every day. So got to be prepared. Got to know how to do it. We have the MeidasTouch podcast, which I hope folks watch out there. We do that Mondays and Thursdays on YouTube. We do that live at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah.
And literally every day, though, we have something. So Wednesdays and Saturdays, we have Legal AF live at the same time. On Tuesdays, we have Majority 54 live right now with Jason Kander and Ravi Gupta. So you get some insight from real pros. On Tuesday, what's today? It's Wednesday. Sorry, Wednesday. On Wednesday evening, we have the midweek edition of Legal AF. On Friday, we have Lights On with Jessica Denson. And we have Fred Wellman's show On Democracy, which isn't live, but it's a great show. On Saturday, I said we had Legal AF. On Sunday, we have the Weekend Show with Ron Filipkowski. Oh, on Wednesday, also we have at the Weekend Show with Anthony Davis. On Wednesdays, we also have with Ron Filipkowski Uncovered with Ron and with Anthony Davis, where they speak about kind of the inner workings of MAGA. And it's so great to see everybody. I don't want to take over your show, but it's great seeing. I'm coming at you live from Midas Studios over here. This is where I record. This is the room that I never leave, Scott. I basically, they lock me in here and they say make some videos and don't come out until you're done making videos. Yeah, maybe got some tough bosses here, you know.
That's amazing. Yeah, especially when you're your own boss. You're probably the toughest boss on that. That's a lot. That sounds like a news network, like a real news network.
Yeah.
Real people who have really been busting their tails, like Ron has been. I remember it used to be in his first term. I would be scrolling through Instagram and everything else to find any pictures of a video released that. I'm very thankful for Ron and him existing.
Ron's a genius. He's really a genius. He finds things. I don't know how he finds them. He watches all those horrific MAGA programming, so we don't have to. And what's cool is all the people on the Midas staff, and we really have built out like a next generation news level because, as you know, Scott, these corporate media stations right now are completely failing us. It's been a disaster, and so at a certain point in our evolution, we decided that being the kind of distribution, being the network was kind of the most important thing. And so we built this from the ground up. We have 0 investors. All of our funding is through we the people, through you the people. And so we're funded by our ads on YouTube. We're funded by our Substack subscribers, our paid subscribers on Substack, and things like that. And meanwhile, we're going up against Fox. It's funded with what, $14.2 billion annually. And I'm going to say we have $14.2 billion less than that here at MeidasTouch. But we're scrappy and we get by, and we've been building this incredible team. And that's thanks to, the people who sign up for, our Substack here, and all that helps. And we've been able to build an amazing editorial staff. That includes Ron at the helm. Ron is our editor-in-chief. And Ron Filipkowski, like you were saying, the guy's great. He finds incredible stuff. He's always breaking some incredible stories, has such insight also into MAGA and the Republican Party, because he was a Republican not too long ago. And so he's got a lot of insight into that world. He was living in Florida when we started working with him, which gave me even more insight. And we built a great team. We have like Asen, who I'm sure a lot of folks know if you were on Twitter and X. He's our senior digital editor who watches all the other shows so that you don't have to. He'll go through Fox all day, Fox, CNN, everything, and does incredible research on all those programs. And we got to chat with all those guys. And it's like every day there's like so much excitement in the chat about kind of what they just found or what somebody just said. And they'll be like, oh my God, we just caught so-and-so saying this. All right, flip it, get it out, and then we do that. We have to make the YouTube videos on it. It's a really kind of cool ecosystem that we're building, and we're just trying to, continue to grow it and continue to build it out in this, just kind of a new way of looking at news. Because let's face it, like when we're watching cable news, it's the same stories over and over and over for 24 hours a day. And then it's like, all right, instead of giving you the details on what this all means, let's bring in this Trump guy to scream at this liberal person over here to scream at each other. And we'll have them scream at each other for about 10 minutes. and then I'll interrupt them, and then we'll go to break, and that'll be the show. And you're like, how's this doing any good for anybody? So we've sort of just kind of re-engineered the model a bit. And we're doing a little less videos now after the election, just because we were working like 18-hour days, look a little unsustainable the days we were working leading up to the election. And I think everyone needs a little bit of a break. But we're putting out still, 10 to 12 videos every single day. So rather than spending your time watching 24 hours a day of people yelling at each other, you're getting some factual information throughout the day. It's kind of 10-minute bites.
Yeah, we first met 4 or 5 years ago during COVID, I think, right before something around that. Our friend, we'll just call him Greg, had linked us up. I had known Ben for a while through his legal work and everything like that. I didn't, I remember seeing when you first got into the game, some of the first videos, the ads or however you want to define them as. And I was like, I was saying to our producers when we were in meetings about the videos we were doing, because we did a ton of them. I was like, we need more oomph. We need like the drum beat in the back. And like, I remember one of the first ones I saw, I was like, this is the content this is what I'm talking about. And I knew that y'all were going to take off.
I
I'm just
appreciate that. And
thankful
I
y'all
gotta
are
say
still
thank you
crushing.
also, because you from the very beginning were so supportive of us, and you had every right not to be, quite frankly, because whenever there's a newcomer kind of coming into, your territory, so to speak, I would understand a lot of people would have their defenses up, but instead you reacted just like that. You were like, this is badass. I want to amplify it. I want to get this out there. And that was huge for us in the beginning. I don't know how many people know about like our background, and I'm not going to bore people with all the history, but basically none of us came from politics, me and my brothers. Like, the closest thing was that Ben interned for Hillary Clinton in college, 15 years ago, 15 years before we started, and would have to like get her the flowers that she liked. So, that I was like, it's the closest. And then, but Ben was a civil rights attorney. He represented Colin Kaepernick and did Colin and still does Colin Kaepernick's business deals. Ben doesn't do any like legal work anymore. He's full-time Midas. And then Jordy was working in marketing. I was working in television. At the time I had worked for the Ellen DeGeneres show, and then I was working for Ice Cube's sports league, and COVID hit, and we were just like, what the F is happening? We were all, and we were watching these press conferences with Trump, and obviously it was already a disaster leading up to them. But then seeing him come out and spew these lies every day, that it's going to go down to zero, that it's never going to come here. Oh, 15 cases, nothing. It's nothing to worry about. And I'm speaking to people overseas and watching the news overseas and seeing how horrible it is. I'm like, we're all going to die. And so like we got together one weekend in March of 2020. I can't believe it's like 4 years ago, right? It's crazy. We got together and we were just like, so is anyone going to do anything about this? And ultimately we were like, why don't we do something? Like, we all have skills, right? Ben knows how to deliver an argument, and he's very business savvy. I edit videos. I worked in TV. I know what that's like. Jordy's a marketing guy, who knows how to market things, the right way, and has worked with major brands. There's certainly something in our skill set here that we could do to just get out a message. Even if nobody sees it, we get out a message. And so we started the original MeidasTouch.com, which I built over the weekend. And at first it was kind of like an all inclusive news site. We didn't really know what it was, but we would do news, we would add sports, we had all sorts of random stuff. If anyone's able to find that on like archive.org or whatever. And then we started making those videos. I started making the videos, and they started connecting with folks and going viral and on Twitter. And we went from 0 followers to 500 followers to 1,000 to 10 to 100. And the thing just started growing. And before we do it, we're like, okay, I guess this is the thing that people need right now. They want, stuff that actually hits hard and that addresses the issues of our time and doesn't kind of dance around it like to make like back then. Remember also, there were none of these like new Democrats. There were no like Jared Moskowitz's like talking shit and throwing punches and stuff. There was nothing. And so I guess we struck a nerve, and we've just grown from there. And we've since transitioned that basically into this news network that I'm super proud of. And we have all these amazing contributors, and and we just want to keep it going. And the Substack that we've been building also is super special. It's basically our premium ad-free experience. If you go to MeidasPlus.com, and we post our videos there without ads. We'll post ad-free podcasts. We'll post incredible articles. Ron Filipkowski, our editor-in-chief, does daily newsletters there, and his insights are always brilliant and funny and very insightful. And so check it out. I'm sure everybody would like it a lot.
No, that's awesome. And the background is great as well, because the guy that had connected us in the first place is big deal, best-selling author. Like, it was a cool crew to be a part of. Even, I mean, we were stretched so thin talking about 18, 20-hour days, but then you're also isolated. I was right outside of DC. Luckily I got outside the city. That was a nightmare. It was reversed in a lot of places. People were fighting over masks. They were committing fraud to get the shot.
Dude, I still have it's like seared into my brain going into, I'm in Los Angeles, going into the Ralph's supermarket in Los Angeles. And I felt like I was in the middle of a zombie movie, like it was everybody running through the aisles as if it was the end of the world, grabbing toilet paper. Then you saw you're like, where's the flour? You look at the flour like box. You just see the dusting of the flour all over the shelf. It's all empty. Like you see, they like none of the meats were there, but they have like the alternative meats, just the things that were left over. and people were nuts and like yelling at each other. I'm like, this is a freaking nightmare. What is happening? Like that was the thing that really, like, when that happened, I was like, this is terrifying. And I think one of the amazing, not amazing and great, but like one of the scary things to me is how folks have like forgotten about that. Like,
Right.
in the past few years, like there's this kind of collective amnesia that I think led to the election the other day, that people forgot just how bad it was and how horribly mismanaged this whole thing was. And that to me is upsetting. I mean, I get, everyone's busy and has their personal lives and things like that. But for so much of the country to be duped by the guy who got us into the situation again, it's disheartening, but we got to fight on.
All the games that he played, cut off the COVID part, but like when I guess I was one of the bigger voices that was very loud, like, in 2020, especially with COVID. And I said, I vetted it very, very much so, where I looked at, okay, the first American died, but they were on a cruise ship and they were in international waters. So I announced it as the first American has died of COVID. And the White House says that is a lie. They tried to label it on Twitter. Twitter did not try to label it. The White House tried to get Twitter to label it. Anyway, so this was what we were up against. We're up against the wall, and I'm like, we need more content. We need more content. And so it just was, we're talking about a guy that canceled the orders of hundreds of millions of masks to be directly sent to people via the Postal Service. And it was so bad that Grant Stern started a nonprofit organization which had tons of people, thousands, sewing masks by hand so that doctors and nurses could have masks in their hospitals. They ended up distributing hundreds of thousands of masks. These are the kind of heroes that.
And then he sold our supplies to, not even sold, he gave it to Russia. He gave it to Putin. I mean, not even the whole thing is like,
It's absurd. It's absurd. If you wrote like how a inept, incompetent buffoon would handle something like this, it would be exactly the way he did. And so it's just insane that, that nonprofit even had to exist, but thank God it existed, right? To be able to do that. And it's all so maddening. And, people are obviously going to have all their takes about the election and what happened and blame this person and blame that person. But I still think we are really feeling the ramifications of COVID, today, and how that's so upended just society in general and led to these mass disruptions, whether it's inflation, the economy, this kind of resentment that everybody has towards each other. And that was obviously a factor in the 2020 election, but I think it's still a factor today, and how much it's really, just shifted the kind of the political landscape, the global landscape. And I think it'll probably be, maybe even decades until we look back on this period of time and realized how consequential, that moment was. Not to, and they're very different things, but, it's like the way we look at 9/11 as an inflection point on the way we handled terrorism and the American war efforts, and the way that we kind of united and then started fighting with one another and conspiracy theory started. I think COVID is kind of a similar, inflection point in our history that we're going to look back and say, yeah, that was the thing that kind of changed everything, that kind of broke people's brains, and hopefully we're able to look back and say, we got through it positively. And I think that's what you and me are kind of fighting for every day, kind of for this return to normalcy, for a support of, traditional American values, and to just kind of keep pressing on.
Do you think that this election is maybe an inflection point for corporate media in regards to their ratings are dropping? Y'all are skyrocketing, right? Rightfully so. You're not putting fake, you're not putting Trump supporters onto different kind of an analysis on TV where you can then act like they're undecided voters. You know what I mean? You don't have to play the game. You don't have to lie about anything.
Right.
You don't have to present a fake argument. You're just telling the truth and talking about what's going on. And you're not taking crap from anybody. Even though you and I and Ben and Jordy are probably some of the most threatened people on the internet. Besides that point, do you think that, what do you think makes y'all different than like CNN and MSNBC? That's kind of a softball question, but I really want you to tell people, like, what is the difference? Why are you guys, skyrocketing ratings and everybody else is starting to crater?
I think people are looking for a source of truth, and I think people are fed up with this both sides garbage. I'll confess, I watched CNN for the first time in a very long time when they had the town hall with Vice President Kamala Harris. I hadn't watched it in like a year. I cleansed myself of these stations. I have watched it, and I watched it, and my immediate impression was just like, no wonder why people are misinformed to kind of the general public, like I would say not your, followers here, but, kind of the general public out there who are watching these things. And no wonder why everybody is terrified all the time. And no wonder why people don't understand Kamala Harris's plans, policies, what President Biden's done, et cetera, because they so muddy the water with the way they discuss everything. Everything is a game to them. Everything is, I still, a scarred in the back of my head was, when immediately after Vice President Harris finished the town hall, which Trump refused to even participate in. That was the debate he skipped. And Dana Bash goes, I'm not sure she sealed the deal there. And then they spent the next 4 hours criticizing her for like the most absurd things. Like, well, one of the commentators, I think it was Abby Phillip, who honestly I like generally. I don't like her show, but I like her. But they had, like, she made some sort of comment like, we needed, Kamala Harris should have done an argument from an inverted pyramid structure, but instead she delivered her argument from a pyramid structure. And I'm like, what is this level of, criticism? Where's this on Trump? Like, the guy could like fart on stage. The guy could like, say someone's not black. He could talk about Puerto Ricans and just got like whatever it is. And like, you don't at all, speak about it. In fact, you do the opposite. You do sanewashing, which is you try to normalize that behavior. So you could easily see how this sort of thing happens and how people are misinformed about policies. And I think sometimes, unfortunately, these cable networks that are so prevalent out there, that are kind of mainstays in a lot of people's media diet, you understand why watching that could make people not so informed. So what we try to do, obviously we all have our opinions, and we don't shy away from our opinions, but we try to show you this is what's going on. This is what Trump said. These are his words. These are the words of Trump's followers. These are the words of this Democratic senator. This is the word of this Republican senator. And we'll show you the clips. We'll show you everything. We're not going to say Trump gave a riveting speech on the economy today, and da 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 da. It's like, what do you taught? Where do you even get that from? He was being racist and a maniac. Like, are you reading his press release? Like, we're not going to sanewash it. And I think people are looking for a space right now, spaces right now of media who are going to tell it how it is, for lack of a better word, who aren't going to try to normalize fascism, who aren't going to try to normalize all this craziness, but are going to acknowledge that this is not a normal situation. If you're trying to both sides something where you have the truth and you have a lie, and you say, well, real truth is probably somewhere in the middle, you're then delivering at least half a lie to your audience, because there's no reason to go in the middle if there's two sides. And by the way, if the Republicans right on something, report that too. That's fine. It's not about party, but like you have right now this structure where you have a pro-democracy party in the Democrats, and you have this Republican Party, which is completely antithetical to all those values. And to pretend like everything is the same, to me, it's maddening, and I think that's why people are seeking other spaces. And I think the media, I think they played themselves, Scott. I think they played themselves because I think they thought that getting Trump in power was going to help their ratings. I think they thought this was a 2016 redux, and we're going to get Trump back, and there's going to be all this craziness. People are going to watch cable news all day. And we're currently seeing at least the opposite. We are currently seeing that people are actually fleeing these cable networks in record numbers because I think people acknowledge the damage that they have done. I think they acknowledge, these papers that the many, they have a lot of reporters who do great work, like at the Washington Post and at the New York Times, but they see these papers in this moment of, in this inflection point, siding with the bad guys, basically. Like for Washington Post to decline at the last minute, to not endorse, to abdicate that duty. And by the way, if you didn't want to endorse and you said this 2 years ago, that's one thing, right? But to do it a week before the election, you're making a statement at that point, regardless of what you do. And they have so failed us. And I think if these networks, if these papers think that folks are going to just forget about it, and now they're going to be like, oh, I got to tune in nonstop to watch the Trump show, I think they're mistaken. I think all their viewers are going to go to sources like the Dworkin Report. I think they're going to go to Meidas Plus on Substack. I think they're going to go to the MeidasTouch YouTube channel and kind of like-minded people who aren't afraid to call BS BS.
That's the last question I have before that thing that we had mentioned before we got on here, that I ask everybody you do. You, like I had mentioned just a minute ago, we are, maybe proudly so, some of the more threatened people in just, I guess, politics or on the internet. I've had a heart when I started looking into the Russia scandal, which was just Trump's Russian business affairs and how he's worked there for 30 years and made tens of millions of dollars from there, and in business transactions, and planned on building the Trump Tower in Moscow. And his response was no Russian ties. And then he went into no Russian collusion. And I was like, we should look into collusion, because this is, I at that point, I was like, I didn't even consider it. And then, of course, he had a Russian working on his campaign, a Russian-born person, Boris, who was working.
And by the way, he likes to say Russia, Russia, Russia. Yeah, it was Russia.
Sitting next to a Putin oligarch. Here's video of you. I brought it on to MSNBC and I present it. And I'm like, here's video of Trump in Russia, in Moscow, sitting next to one of Putin's billionaire oligarchs, is talking about how he's thinking about building the Trump Tower in Moscow, and he was looking at places to build it in, and he's doing different business deals while there. And I was like, great, we got him. Here's a video of him signing a $20 million contract with that dude. Also a proposal that they're going to do business in the future. And all that was just like, well, and so I kept on screaming at the top of my lungs. But with that came all these wonderful threats and this all new environment. Me personally, I've had different times where I've had to lay low per se personally, but I've never backed down publicly, right? Like there's times where people shouldn't know where I am at the moment, but we're going to keep on going. So like, this new version of Trump, I know, I want to say this the right way. I want to ask this the right way. This new version of Trump is scarier. Now, I personally am not scared of him. I am absolutely terrified of what he's going to do to other people. And that I want to do everything I can to prevent that from happening. I'm an overprivileged white dude, right? And I don't want to, I recognize that there are going to be so many people hurt by this guy. So his threats, the most asked question so far in this chat is, are his threats, do they make you back off? Like, are you going to, once he gets in, are you going to back off? Are you going to be afraid? My answer is no. Like, how do you deal with threats? How do you deal with this new environment of this, new Trump that's come out?
Well, obviously, this is a whole new ball game, and Scott, I know we've talked about it privately. I've heard, some of the things that you've gone through, and how you had to be remote and go to different locations at times, and we here have certainly been, I mean, every day we wake up to dozens of threats, if not more, in our inbox, in our DMs, in our comments, whatever. Sometimes those come directly to our home in like letters, and sometimes like we've been swatted before also. Like I've been swatted, and so it's scary when things like that happen. So you understand that that's a possibility. You do your best to keep your family safe. But they're not going to stop us. They're not going to slow us down. And I think anytime anything like that happens, I just want to send a message to everybody out there that anytime anyone tries any of that crap on us, we're going to grow bigger. We're going to go stronger. We're not going anywhere. You cannot mess with us. And as Trump gets into office, I'm sure he is going to want to do a whole host of things. And I agree with you that we need to be looking out for people. We need to be looking out for these communities who he is going to be targeting. I think the Trump voters who voted for him are unfortunately, they're going to have to learn this lesson on their own when he starts taking away their health care or taking away, their social security and doing all the things that he intends to do. There's nothing we could do about that. But I think we need to look out for one another. We're not going to be slowing down. We will do this. We will run this network till the very end, until Trump's minions pull us out of my house. I will be doing that. We will be doing this every day because the stakes are too high. And it's not just like, a job that we wake up for and we're like, oh, let's do some stories. It's like, this is our life. This is our country. And that to me is of the utmost importance. And I think one of the things that kind of gives me hope throughout this and fuels me is seeing this community, seeing the commenters in this chat right now, sending their love, seeing how many subscribers you have to the Dworkin Report and all the people signing up to support you, seeing people signing up to us on Midas Plus, seeing all the comments when we go live on our live shows and all the things. Seeing this just huge pro-democracy community that is out there, that's like nothing else, and we need to keep growing that community and keep making it bigger and better than ever and have each other's backs now more than ever. And we are now fighting a multi-front war, right? Just so to speak. We're going against this Trump administration, and we're going against this corporate media that just is completely unable to handle it. And so, I think that's why now more than ever, independent projects, networks, writers like yourself, like Midas Plus and the MeidasTouch Network. I think that's why we need, all the support we could get right now, because we need to send a message that we are not going anywhere.
That's right. And so if you haven't already, if you're just seeing this for the first time, make sure that you subscribe to Midas Plus. I don't tell y'all to subscribe to this and that. Like I'm telling you, become a paid subscriber, subscribe, follow, do everything you can to support them. They're legit. They've had my back for years and years, and they never wavered. And we had yours whenever the few times you needed it. And, send Ben and Jordy my best. But you just answered the last question. The last question is give some people some inspiration. And you just did that in droves, as I can see here.
Yeah.
And it's really, it's an interesting landscape. I'm so proud to know you, and I'm glad that you're in this space, especially on Substack. I'm sure that we'll talk further about corporate media and whatnot. But I know that people really enjoyed getting to know you, Brett. And I'm proud to call you a friend. And thank you so much for you done for our country and for our freedom and fighting for our democracy and everything you'll do for this soon to be failed Trump administration. You'll be one of the reasons why we succeed in it. And I thank you and your brothers and everybody on your team.
Likewise, Scott, thank you so much for everything you do and everything your team does, everybody you work with, over there. It's the work is more important than ever. And I know I've received a lot of emails to that effect, too, of people saying like, we need this now more than ever. And, I think it is an uphill battle. Yes, but I'll just give people this one stat before we get out of here. And that's leading up to the election. MeidasTouch Network on YouTube was the top YouTube channel. I'm talking of all YouTube channels. Like I'm talking ahead of the NBA, ahead of Fox News, ahead of MSNBC, ahead of CNN. Literally, these corporate behemoths with billions and billions of dollars. And you have my green screen here. We're beating this community. And after the election, was there a slight drop off? Yeah, but we're still number 3. Fox is number 1. So we need to get back on top. We need to beat Fox again. That's my short-term goal right now. We cannot let them dominate the digital airwaves. And so that's where the folks come in. And I think everybody here just needs to, support one another right now. Remain as optimistic as you can and support creators, support independent creators. It's more important now than ever. Let's do this and let's never quit, never give up.
Brett from MeidasTouch, MeidasTouch's Network. So go follow him, go subscribe to their feed right now. If you missed the rest of this video, we'll be posting it tomorrow in the afternoon. Thank you so much for taking time with us. A lot more time than I had asked for, which is awesome. I always appreciate that. And thank you for everybody joining us. Know that if you're not ready to get back in the fight, that's okay, but we got your back. We'll be here when you are. And for those who are already in the fight with us and the thousands of people who have already signed letters to senators to push them for no recess appointments so that they can skirt against any kind of public appointment procedure, we appreciate you. Thanks again. I really appreciate it, Brett, and we'll talk to you soon.
Love you all. Thank you.